So welcome everyone, and to Jake, back for another chat, I suppose. No racing. Well, there was superbikes on today, and Jake, you're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. But yeah, you're looking a little bit different there, Jake. What happened?
Yeah, got my hair. Girl did my hair. Trying to make me look younger. That's an uphill battle. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, look,
trying
she
to
didn't.
youthing. Yeah,
She didn't do.
no
She didn't do a
beard.
bad. No
No
beard.
beard.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could just get the wrinkles gone, I'd be all right. But that doesn't happen now, does it?
I think everyone wants to know, Jake, did you have to make a court appearance, or do you have to make a court appearance? Is that what's going on?
No, I've been a good boy.
Hair done, shaved. Yes, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.
It's not that every cop in the area doesn't know me. Hey, how you doing, Jake? Yeah, you know.
Yeah. I'm sure. I am sure there's something going on. All right, but
yeah, they're always like, he's such a nice guy, but that temper of his, my God.
when he gets anything. But yeah, I suppose, look, there wasn't much going on racing world in the past week. I suppose the World Superbike, so we'll have a little bit of a chat about it. I actually haven't seen the race at time of filming this, but
yeah.
I'm sure you will fill me in on it. I do know about Laverty, poor fella, but
yeah.
Other than
he's
that,
okay, he's okay, isn't he? I didn't hear anything other than when he crashed. They said he was going back. They were giving him out to check him out just for a checkup. That's the last I heard. So I don't
he does have some pelvic injuries, so it's
okay.
Yeah, it's a bit nasty.
No loving.
No, not a nice way to finish. We do have some MotoGP stuff that we want to talk about, and the other thing is, I did put out a suggestion or a poll, or there's a couple of people asking, find out a little bit more about us, myself, and you, and you were involved in questions. So really get quite a good response back. So there is a forum out on the community page if you want to be named or shamed in the next week's one. Just fill out the form and look, we can have a chat. We did get a good response. We got like 20 in total, but we'll read out 5 or 6 and we'll answer those in the very first of Ask Mac and Jake. What we'll do. So we'll get in towards that towards the end. But I suppose World Superbikes all over now. Do you know what I mean?
All over.
It's a bit. I don't know. Is it when these championships end? Is it a bit like flat and they have still one race to go?
Yeah,
and it's over?
it
like,
was.
Do you know what I mean?
It was too.
MotoGP was a bit of tension. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, will he fuck it up? Will he not fuck it up? Do you know what I mean? And I know. I just think Superbikes is something very interesting, and I know a lot of people were asking on the channel, can we do it? And yes, I will do it next year, but the one thing I suppose I find very difficult about with World Superbikes is there is a lot of regulations for a standard production class, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it is clear as mud. Like, you have a 2018 Kawasaki engine and a 2019 Kawasaki engine, and they have 2 different rev limits. And you're like, so what's
for the red limit bit? You know what I mean?
But it's not even that. It's just like you should, like, it's a world championship. It's not like a local grassroots race, right? Where someone is coming up in a 1976 bomber, right? Do you know what I mean? This is like creme de la creme of racing, right?
Right.
It should be the 2021 engine or the 2022 engine.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
not back 2016, 2015, and you're like, all right, it's okay. You know what I mean? But I was looking at the regulations, and I'm a bit of a nerd on this stuff, so like I do enjoy reading and understanding the regulations, but there is so much in there for the production class. I'm like going, these are supposed to be like based off street bikes, and it's not. You read the MotoGP technical regulations, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? This is the limit, right? And then you go into Superbikes, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're like, are we even in the same class? Do you know what I mean? And
it's Dorna trying to regulate performance, and performance finds its own level. If you have something, I'll have it soon enough. You don't have to screw with it at all. And it works itself out. It always does, and it does. It's quick, But you can't have it. find to do it every year when everybody's going to be the same. There's always somebody going to get ahead, and then somebody has to catch up. And it ends up when they do it, they turn it backwards. Like poor Kawasaki got hit twice, and this one I have a real bugger with is going too fast. You have a penalty for a race motorcycle for going too fast. The whole point of a race is to go as fast as possible. You know, and if you look at them, the only thing that's not keeping them bikes on absolute par with one another is the Kawasaki is too slow now, right?
Well, look, and
it's the oldest engine. It's the oldest engine design. It still has a long.
You can definitely see that the Ducati in a straight line. Neither Yamaha or Kawasaki have an answer in it. If you did a drag race with them,
they have the best acceleration.
If you gave them the exact same reaction time off the line, right, Ducati would absolutely murder them, right? And that's for me, that's fine, right? That's their strong point, right?
Ducati, it's a V4. V4 inherently have more torque than an inline four, so you're going to have better acceleration. You can't. How are you going to hinder? Why would you hinder them on that? You know
exactly right now. The Quack and the Yamaha, they're better going around the corner. But Ducati are closing that gap.
Yes, right? As much as possible.
And I genuinely, and I know people might give out to me about it, but I definitely do think Bautista made the difference on the Ducati this year. And the reason I say that is because Scott Redding did fuck all on it last year.
Yeah, but you know why? Because he was too big and he chewed up his rear tires. And I remember as a fighter, and they used to say, you have excellent hand speed. You have the hand speed of a middleweight, and I was a heavyweight. Same difference. He doesn't have, because of the extra weight on your arms, you don't have the same, even if you change the weights up, it's going to still be against him because it's just a small man's sport.
But he did, but he did make the difference. You know what I mean? Like Scott Redding had almost the same bike, right? Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And he couldn't do it. Rinaldi didn't get near it. Do you know what I mean? And he didn't get near it this year either. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Bautista came in, he made the difference for Ducati this year, right? The Ducati wasn't a miles better bike than it was last year.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It was
as far as acceleration between Rinaldi and Bautista, it was hardly negligible, if at all.
Yeah,
because they were both small. I mean, one was small and one's extremely small. I mean, one's 140, one's 130 pounds.
Yeah. Now, for me, it's just like I simply and look, I'll just go back to this. It's like let your engine rev to whatever the fuck it wants to rev to, right?
Yes.
You want some bitch to go to 21,000 RPM. That's fine. You have X amount of races and you have 4 engines.
Yeah.
Rev the balls off it all you want.
You take
a 5th engine, it's going to cost the team 25 points and it's going to cost the rider 12 points.
Whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, develop it the way you want to develop.
Right.
But
that keeps the teams happy. That keeps the manufacturers happy. As a manufacturer, you don't want to be doing something and getting ahead and somebody pushes you down. The manufacturer doesn't even mind you helping. Like somebody put a 3-cylinder bike in there, right?
The only rule that I would love to see in it is that it's based off your standard production bike.
Right.
So if you make a ZXR 1000, there's no R.
Right.
It's based off that. Whatever fucking engine is in that, that's your base point. Done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And because like look at that the Ducati that came out there recently. It looks beautiful.
The only thing I do not agree with you on is when you said the difference if it's like they can't make 1,000 when they make an 11,000. Like Ducati has an 1,100 and a 1,000. Mm-hmm. The only reason I disagree on that is because when the reason they went to an 1,100 was not for racing or anything else. It was for EPA, right? So now they're forced to make an 1,100 for the production bike, but then they're forced to have 1,000 cc's. So they can't really make a production bike in 1,000 cc's or won't pass emissions.
Yeah, but that Panigale ore, right?
Yeah.
that is not built like the road bike.
What do you mean? As far as what? The suspension's the same. The electronics is the same. It's the last time I
Yeah,
saw it. Like the S
it
and the
is.
S and the R have the same suspension.
They're the same as suspension, but the chassis and everything
Chassis
else
is
is
the same.
it's
No,
different.
chassis is the same.
It would
No.
have to be different because the horsepower is much bigger in the R than the S.
I think the head angles changed. That's it.
Yeah, but it has to be delivering much more power. Like,
But they give them both the same.
I don't know. I just think for me, I just think it's wrong that you would have like two different bikes in my view, right? Because the 1100 is obviously going to be heavier.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Than the 1000. But I think like the 1000 engine
All they
is
have to do
designed
is say you can bring it to 1,000. It has to be like the 1100, but make it 1,000 cc's to fit the
homologation for the thing.
homologation. So yeah, that would cover both sides.
Yeah. I just think it World Superbikes for me is something that the affordable bike that the average Joe Soap could go and buy. And
Yeah.
there's not an awful lot of average Joe Soaps that can go and buy a Panigale or Special or whatever the fuck it is, right? Or even the Honda, or like, don't get me wrong, the Honda or the ZX
Right.
but it's because those bikes realistically, as soon as you throw your leg over them, different beasts from what's that R one, the Ducati one is 240.5 brake horsepower.
Yeah.
If you use a special
the
oil.
race package, yes. If you have oil and you have a race package, and that you're just saying, to get rid of the fucking race packages, and then we're just gonna have a regular. You get it this way now, and that's
and
that's the bike you go off of.
Yeah, that's the bike you go off. That's the engine from that bike that you go off. Do you know what I mean? And if you want that some bitch to rev to 21,000 RPM,
knock yourself out. Right. You want to put the exhaust on afterwards? That's happy because everybody does it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just go do it. But again, that way then for me, it's relevant to I can wins on Sunday, buy it on Monday. Whereas right now, there's no relevance to it. Like, because like you go in and you say, "Oh, I'll take a Ducati V4 or S," and then you fucking drive home and you're like, "It's 1100 and there's 1,000." Do you know what I mean? There is nothing.
But it's weird. But in Ducati's case, they sell so many of the damn R's, and most of they have them as a at least they can go on the street. Now Aprilia has a V4, right? Special race bike. It's not even you can't even ride on the street.
Yeah.
You know that? Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, it's so special you can't put it straight.
But again, that's what the rules are doing to it. So bring back the rule to say it has to be based off your budget superbike. You know what I mean?
Homologation specials. This is where Dorna screws up, and they never meant to make a mistake. They screwed up in the 90s with homologation specials. Remember that? Remember the Yamaha YZR 750, right?
Yeah.
And why go back?
Yeah.
Dorna never changes. Once they make a rule, they say that's it. It's good. We never make a mistake. They're stuck in the 1980s. We'll go back to the testing. They said, well, we're restricting testing so the little guy doesn't have to go through as many hotel rooms. I mean, like, do you think anybody in MotoGP worries about the cost of a Motel 6? I mean, that. No, and they're showing up with a bike in the back of a van. No, come on.
No, once those tests are kept fucking simple, like if for example, a majority of the teams are based in Europe, right? And you're testing in Europe, that's fine. But then these stupid fucking tests, you see it all the time there now, Formula One. Let's go to Bahrain. Why can't you go to Jerez in Spain? Do you know what I mean? Why can't you go to Catalonia? Why can't you go to Mugello? Why can't you? There's loads of racetracks where you could go test, but no, let's just fly right across the world and waste an awful lot of money. And so like I get it, but look, this weekend, who was it? Bautista took 2 wins, was it?
Yes. He took the 10-lap race. And guess what? He got on it and he went it was mixed conditions. Everybody went with a mixed tire. He went with slicks. And it's only a 10-lap race. He started out like 10th place or 12th place. And then went all the way when the track dried up. He passed them on the penultimate lap. He passed Top Rack and won the race. So and then he won the 20 lap afterward. The first race was more wet, and Ray won. Finally, won a race. I felt so good for him.
It was like May or something. It was the last time Ray won the race. Now, look, I do watch Superbike. I haven't watched this race yet. A bit busy this morning. But as you also know, that I can't stand James Toseland, so I have to watch it on mute. So I miss half of the stuff that's going on. So, but one of the questions I did get is like, yes, I will be doing more Superbikes next year. I will buy the package online, so I don't have to listen to James Toseland. And look, we will be covering a lot more of Superbike in the next version. MotoGP 2023 rather than 2022. Just I suppose just some news on MotoGP. Ducati and Aprilia were testing, as you just bring up that they were testing again.
Yeah.
Piero was getting a good lot of laps in, and Salvadori was actually on the Aprilia. And he did a lot of wet weather testing, actually. I think the day was wet. But the most interesting part for me is that the other Aprilia riders, so Espargaro, Maverick, what's his name, Oliveira and Fernandez, were in Cologne, Germany. Any ideas what is in Cologne, Germany?
Toyota test track. A wind tunnel.
Wind tunnel, yeah. So you can actually go and rent out that wind tunnel, and a lot of teams do it. So initially, I was wondering what. Obviously, they were testing aerodynamics, right? Yeah. But I do believe is also they were doing their rider screens. So if they change the fairing slightly, they'll change the front screen as well. So, for example, Oliveira is bigger than Maverick, so they don't need to put an Oliveira front windscreen on Maverick's bike because it would just be too big. So they're doing an awful, because Maverick is smaller, so like he can go, you know what I mean, compared to your man. So
when you say that, I didn't know Oliveira was that big.
He's not that big, but he's bigger. Do you know what I mean? So he's wider.
Bigger chest, shoulders,
across the shoulders. So, but I just thought it was interesting that they're bringing the riders into the wind tunnel now. I've seen it before, but you know what I mean? The four of them all going off. Do you know what I mean? It's like a session for the bike. What? Sure, we go to Germany. We'll go into an old wind tunnel there. We'll have a ball. Like, do you know what I mean? But yeah, look, it is interesting, and you know, I can't actually wait to see how Oliveira goes on the Aprilia. I know I did a video about this the other day, but it's just like I still think like he's going to put El Capitan under an awful lot of pressure, if I'm very honest. You know, I think it's just like, you know, he was he was in second place of the Aprilias, ahead of Vignal or of Espargaro, just ahead of Espargaro, but just behind Vinales, who is normally the world champion of the winter tests. Do you know what I mean? Goes fastest, but 2 days before, do you know what I mean? He was nowhere. Do you know what I mean? All of a sudden in testing, when he can run his own lines, he doesn't seem to have an issue, right? And I was just thinking, then it's like, what? Like, elation is an emotional guy, right? So can you imagine if the two boys start beating him regularly and all of a sudden he's the fucking tail end Charlie? And I'm not mentioning Raul Fernandez for a reason, because there's a video coming out next week about Raul Fernandez, and you'll hear my point of view on that, right? So,
well, you know my point of view without Raul Fernandez already.
But no, it was just like, I was just like, if he starts getting beaten, like, yes, he's done amazing work for the Aprilia team. He's been there when no one else wants to be there, right? Like, there was Moto2 riders turning down MotoGP rides on the Aprilia. They're like,
Right.
thanks, no thanks, I stay winning here. Like,
Yeah, right.
you know what I mean? But I think one of the interesting things for me is how will he handle that change? You know, how do like everyone knows all right, well, anyone that's raced knows that when you start getting outperformed, it's very, very hard to deal with. Do you know what I mean? It's very hard to get your head back right into saying, thing. And next minute, all of a sudden, when a fella throws his leg over the bike, like even on the first test day, and is already equaled with you. Now, okay, let's put their hands up and say they were testing new parts and whatever, right? But he should be half a second behind. Do you know what I mean? Where they are. Do you know what I mean? So I just find it very, very interesting to see how he'll deal with that.
Well, he's up there now. He's what, 32? He's one of the oldest ones out there, 33. I mean, if he's racers aren't realistic, let's be honest. But you'd think you say, okay,
I can still win the fucking championship.
Yeah, yes, I can still win the championship. Yeah, I haven't done it before, but I'm getting better as I get older. That thing, boxers do the same thing. They're very close. Boxers, racers. Anyhow, you think you go, I'm getting extra years that I shouldn't have to begin with. The young dogs are coming up. They're outrunning me. You go. Your life cycle goes up in sixes. This is the truth. And down in sixes. It goes up. It plateaus at 30. Right. Then it goes from 30 to 36 is a drop. Then the big drop is from 36 to 42. That's the big killer. Right.
Jesus, I'm 43 tomorrow.
Oh man! Well, happy birthday! Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So I'm out of that. Or I am out of that downward spiral now. Is that what you're saying? So
no.
Go back
No. You go down to 36. Then you get that big. It's a cliff. Okay, between 36 and 42. I hate to break it to you. Yes.
Oh well, yeah. Bring a snorkel. We're going deep. Is it?
Yeah. I remember 35. I ran. I'd run 6 miles a day. Right after working out at the gym and the boxing a whole bit, but I'd run 30 minutes for 6 miles. That's a 5-minute mile flats, right? I hit 36. Christ, it must have added a second to each freaking mile. I was just like, Jesus Christ, I couldn't do that. All of a sudden, it was like, boom, couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I still looked the same, still had the washboards, had the whole 9 yards, looked like $1 million, but just something was missing,
Look, I suppose that, and look, I think, even if we look at all today's current breed of riders, like the young ones coming up, like there's no fear anymore. Like, you know what I mean?
I don't think they ever had fear. I don't think they ever. It's not in the DNA.
I think they had a healthy respect, for the established riders.
But the younger you have, the less you think of dying too. They're coming up younger.
Oh yeah, well, Dorna put their foot down on that now, isn't it? 18 now from next year.
At 18, you can't get killed. I was bulletproof at 18. You still, I'm going to shoot you. I say, yeah, good, whatever. When they invented guns, they didn't make one. They didn't stop at one.
Yeah, but you need to to get into. If you're 18 now, right? You can only join into Moto 3. You can't join Moto 3 at any age. So what I mean is that at the age of people getting into MotoGP, they're at least going to be 21, 22 now.
All right, we'll say the guy's 23. We'll say all of them, Pecco, whatever. They're going 180 mile an hour. They slide off and they get up and go, damn, what happened wrong? That's not right. Okay, that's not something. That's not. They're missing the emotion of fear. Come on, even
9 times out of 10, the reason they're fucking saying what fucking happened there, right, is it happened so quick for them.
Right, and it's like, and they just walk out like, oh, I just got to do that again. What did I miss? Nothing doesn't faze them at all. There's something wrong. They're void of fear. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
but void of emotion of fear.
But I just think I don't know. I just have this thing that they're different breed, and it's not even about fear. It's just like they know what they need to do, and they know what the expected level is, and if if they're not going to achieve it, you know, they know nowadays that it's ruthless. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look at fucking KTM. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, they're all ruthless now way.
KT, well, they're not. Look at Yamaha, and they did not throw fucking
Oh,
Frankie
that's
out,
just
right?
yeah, that's just an odd one. Everybody's going, why not? You know?
Yeah. Even Lynn Jarvis at this stage is saying, why not? Like, do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? But
What was I thinking?
yeah. But no, I think I don't know. I just think like the whole breed has moved it along. Do you know what I mean? And this is the thing about Rossi, and like Rossi, in my view, stayed probably 3 years too long. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was because he just fucking loved to race, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Aleix is approaching not the 40s, but I think he's 34. So he's in that bandwidth, but he's trying to go against Pecco. Pecco, I think, is only 23, and Fabio is 22 or 23 as well. Like 10 years younger than him now. Like, do you know what I mean? You are the elder statesman, right? You know.
Oh, also, when you have reflexes, like you'd have a bag, like a standing bag you're hitting, and you put a sticker on there like the size of a quarter, and I might do a 5-punch combination. I hit that and throwing as hard and fast as I can. I hit that quarter size spot every time, right? When you hit 40, you throw the same thing. You're having a hell of a time hitting that quarter. It's off to the right, off to the left. Your accuracy goes off. When you're going in that corner, what they used to be able to hit that quarter on that street. You ever see when they put the quarter on the racetrack and they hit it every time?
Yeah.
It gets tougher and tougher for them to hit that corner, that spot, their lines every time.
Yeah, look. Personally, for myself, when I decided to retire, I was just too heavy, right? But you know, like a go-kart, 35 horsepower.
I weigh more than you, trust me.
Yeah, but it was just like for me. Yeah, I think I probably stayed racing at about 5 years more than I should have. Do you know what I mean? Like I was already, even with the weight, I was already going out half a second behind. Do you know what I mean? And it was just anyway. Look, yeah.
It's
but I suppose
it's hard to stop.
Yeah, but listen, I was also doing it because I loved it. Do you know what I mean? Did I care? Did I finish first or the only place I wanted to finish was and I've told people this is that if I was on the last lap and I was last, I'd fucking crash. Do you know what I mean? Right, it's so much easier to come in and say, "How did you get on yesterday race?" And I crashed. Rather than say,
overshot that corner.
Yeah, finished last. Last on the brakes by. But yeah, look, I think it's rather interesting how things are going to go. There's a couple of updates, all right, and I might do a video on one or two of them. But this brake rotors thing is going to be quite interesting for the MotoGP. There's going to be a technical reg that can't be carbon fiber anymore. The brakes can,
of course, yeah,
but I think the actual mechanical rotor bit or the linkage to it has to be metal now. It can't be a carbon fiber.
I looked at that though. The carrier, it's called the carrier.
Yeah.
They're metal already. I think somebody said it was you. I thought it was you. But between where they're bolted onto the bolts that go on, the joints that goes onto it. But it said it can't be carbon fiber.
Yeah.
And I looked at them and they weren't carbon fiber already. I don't know if that was a preemptive strike because somebody was thinking about doing it. You know,
could possibly be. Yeah,
and I could see the big danger in that too. Carbon fiber on those floaters, that could be. Yeah. Because you got to have everything has to be even. You know,
what's the famous saying? Accident waiting to happen.
But
I suppose. Yeah, look, it's interesting, and look, there's lots of stuff coming this week, especially about other riders in the tests, and then we get into some technical stuff which might interest you, might not interest you, but. So I wanted to go into ask Mac and Jake. So we have a couple of responses here that caught my eye, and feel free if you do want to get involved for next week. And the first question that I do want to ask is, and I'll let Jake, you can answer your bit first.
No problem.
So Tony D asked, was just curious about both your backgrounds in the racing world. You seem to both have friends in high and low places. Love the content. Please keep it going. Signed, Tucson, USA. Tony D. So What about your racing, your background in the racing world, and do you have friends in high and low places like
Oh
Garth
yeah,
Brooks?
I know low people in high places, but that's another story. But what happened was, as a kid, I raced a couple races just for in Temple Star Racing, but I just on the side. They used to let me be a test rider and stuff like that. And it was one of those. It was Amar, one of those tests where if anything went, you get turbos. You could do ever just one class, unlimited class. I only did a few races with them. But when I get older, I was a poor kid, but I always wanted to have a motorcycle collection, superbike collection, because all my bikes were like rust and dirt holding them together, like $150 Hondas, you know. So I got a motorcycle team. Now I actually had a national champion rider, which I won't say because who he is. I never do, because what happens, he gets, if I say he liked X and now he's promoting Y, because I never want to do that, stick anybody in the spot. But that was with a Buell fact. I actually took the Buell factory racer off the track with new motors and all that, right off from the Buell factory bike. Ran that for a year, and then I was doing it with my kid, and I was, he didn't want to do it anymore, so that was my year running with that. It wasn't that great a bike, to be quite honest with you. Buell,
that's the one with the big brakes, is this?
Yes. It was the V twin, the Rotax engine. It weighed 365 pounds curb weight. And it was really, really good.
It ran a Rotax engine, so same as the Aprilias.
Yes, that's the old Aprilia. It's a different engine than the Aprilia, okay? But it wasn't that great, and the performance wasn't that great. And the rear suspension had an inherent problem. There was no linkage to it. And Buell himself did it, and he put the angle on it, and it was wrong. It went 4 inches to get this chock to move a half an inch, right?
Oh, Jesus.
So it was just dragging the rear end around. The Buell Firebolt was a phenomenal handler. It would handle better than any of the Japanese or European bikes. I mean, even by Bike Magazine did a test on that. 2005, the best handling superbike. All they did was test it for the corners, nothing for else. And that was the best handling bike. But anyhow, but I was always around the tracks and stuff like that. Met a lot of people, but I was more into the engineering and just wanted to have an experience. I have a bike collection of, a bunch of different bikes, and I've built all different, like I have a million kind of builds I did, a lot of them off the wall that you wouldn't think would work. And some of them were great successes. Some were absolute failures.
So I'm going to class some of those builds so as like redneck builds, is it? Ding,
ding, ding, ding, ding. Yeah. Like
redneck family coming on.
I took a Buell Firebolt, put 160 cubic inch the Harley drag racing engine, which had 220 horsepower stock. And it didn't actually fit because the guy cut the piece of the frame out. I said, no, the whole project's shot. You know what I mean? Did a Buell 11, but took the regular Buell, put the Sportster engine in it with 1140 or 1420 cc's with an underslung turbo. Yeah, that exhaust went underneath. Put a turbocharger on there. Got the thing up to 203 horsepower, 202 horsepower. And it handled unbelievable. But you know what happened? The block eventually busted right at the V. It cracked.
Jesus.
Because it just couldn't hold the horsepower because you have too big, being it's 45 degrees, the pistons go, that's why you get the potato. They never can come down. They have two of them coming down almost the same. One's 7 degrees difference between the other. So they're never in balance. It's like, well, imagine getting so much fuel and air, and it's shoving so much fuel and air with a turbocharger, right? Because the thing's going boom, 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 and you're only going 6,500 RPMs red line, but getting 200 horsepower. I mean, the thing was like, but when you pass like a Ninja ZX10 coming off the corner, the guy would look at you like, "What the hell's going on here? This can't be happening." And handle better than that. I'm like, but then the thing just come apart. There's no.
She was built for speed and not comfort.
Oh, 1,000 cc V twin Briggs and Stratton engine would go in a Harley Davidson, turbocharge that from 35 horsepower to 120 horsepower, and it was the best because it had 90 degrees. If you took the Harley engine out, you put the Briggs and Stratton right in. It fit right in there. It looked like a Harley engine, right? But it was smooth because it was 90 degrees. but the
Right.
casings, like I put all internal forged internals in it, but the casings were still shit metal.
Right.
So it would just at 30,000, it was just all wore out. I
Right.
mean, it
Yeah.
was,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the oil would just start to ease through the pores of the metal. It's like, but until then, it was great. I had so many people call me to get how to do this because it only cost like the turbo was $2,700, right? The whole 9 yards, right? Then I just shut it off because people wanted to make it cheaper and cheaper. Why do you have to have forged piston? Because you have to have a forged piston; it'll blow up.
Yeah.
Imagine getting 200 of those emails a day. After I was like, all right, you're just being too cheap. I just turned it off.
Yeah. I get you.
Yeah.
I get you.
Oh, and we have engineers in the family, 4 generations. So any engineer you can think of, other than my father, me, myself, we went for the money. So that's a lot of the engineering resource I have. If I don't know something, I can't figure it out. I got to have, hey, how you doing? You don't want them on, no. My God, if you say you get a fanboy telling him he's wrong, oh my God, they're just like, screw you, you dumbass.
That's it. It's all right. I'm an ex-racing driver. I can make up all those excuses. You know what I mean? But yeah, for me, I'm not quite as exciting as Jake. I do collect bikes. I have a collection of old two-strokes, mostly RGVs and Aprilia RS 250s. Always going to try and bring them on and call it the young fella's inheritance. And my only fear with it is that her if anything happens to me and herself sells them for what I told her I bought them for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How much did you buy that for? 400, is it? Yeah. 4,000. But so I was faster on 4 wheels than I was on 2 wheels. So like I was All Ireland champion in go-kart racing. But I just love motorbikes, and I just whenever I get the chance to get out, or whenever I get a chance to strip an old classic, talking 1991 or 1987, but like my plan is to buy all my dream bikes that when I was a young fella, every single one to have. Do you know what I mean? And I'm nearly there with it. The only one that I'm missing is the 916. And once I have that, then I have my collection that I'm happy with. But then say that, look, that's just what I do. And then I suppose I have another interest, which is how things work. It doesn't matter what it is. So whether it's YouTube or whether it's plastering a wall or whatever, I will love to go figure it out. But yeah, so do I have friends in high places? I do and I don't, right? I'm very well up there in the Motorsport Ireland world. Do you know what I mean? My opinion is sought on kind of rules and regulations and interpretations and stuff like that. But long story short, I am just a racer at heart, and 9 times out of 10, common sense goes out the fucking window. Do you know what I mean? It's like, gap, go. Do you know what I mean? And like, even at this stage, like playing my young fella on the PlayStation, if he gets ahead of me, do you know what I mean? The handle go across and give him a flake or a thump or whatever, anything to distract him and cause him to crash so that I can. So look, like it's never ever left, I suppose. So that's it on that one from me. We'll move on to Mike's one. Well, on.
One thing, I've had all the superbike collection of Japanese and European superbikes, so I have no bias. Somebody's just saying the European bikes are better does not make you a fanboy. I'm just telling like that's the way it is. They've been for the past 15 years they've won every superbike comparison. I mean, and all the comparisons, they've just jumped ahead of the Japanese, and that's really because of an economic thing.
It is, but I think it's also a culture. Do you know what I mean? Like in my view, the European manufacturers aren't afraid to fail publicly.
Hence, well, they think racing improves the breed.
Well, no. Look at what. Excuse me. Look at what Ducati did.
Yeah.
They put on Stegosaurus wings, painted black because they were only just off the fucking 3D printer the day before.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have time to get them spray paint, but they just threw them onto the bike and let's see what happens. Yeah. And that's their mentality. Joe's like, If a breaks or falls off, we'll print another one.
Yeah,
but we'll print it maybe 2 mil bigger so that it won't break the next time. Do you know what I mean? And whereas if that goes through Honda or Yamaha, like that, we have to durability test that in a wind tunnel or fucking whatever, and it's 3 months before it gets out. Do you know what I mean? And it's just they're testing live.
But they're being, remember when they had the crash in 2008? Everybody remembers the global financial crash in 2008. Mm-hmm. Japan never got over that. They have not got back to the same spot where they were before 2008 yet to this day. So they have been having to cut corners on their bikes to make profit. Where the Europeans in the United States, we bounced right back from that. So Europe said, put all the money into R&D, and their bikes instantly got better and better and better and better. Where the Japanese, they couldn't afford to. So they sat back on their laurels, okay, and said, we'll keep going off our reputation. Right? That we had the best bikes. All of a sudden, it's not working anymore because they just don't have the best bikes. I'm not saying they're bad, okay, but the Europeans are better.
Look, there is like I own multiple Aprilias, right? And the European bikes, I can fucking tell you, are temperamental to fuck. Right.
Well, you got 2 strokes going. Jesus Christ, they're always temperamental. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
I love 2 strokes, by the way. Yeah.
My RS 250, she will decide when she wants to start. Do you know what I mean? Not if she's going to start, when. And like typical Italian lady is what I would call her. But Mike Harrison has a question as well.
Oh, come on, Mike. What do you want?
Mike says, I am a huge Joan Mir fan. I am a bewildered Suzuki fan, and I would love to hear your thoughts and Jake's thoughts regarding his move to Honda, and what would you consider a decent season in 2023 for him?
Well, I'll stay at the hospital for first thing, but all jokes aside.
It's not Rins now, we're talking about Mir.
Yeah, I know. Just ask Paul Spagro, you know? It's an uphill battle for him because Honda is far behind. I mean, don't expect him to be up in there. I'd say a good year for him would be if he could get up between 5th and 8th, something like that. Maybe top 8 would be a really good year for him.
Yeah. I wouldn't disagree with you on it. I think there's a couple of things for me Mir's going to have to understand that at the start of the year, his input is really valid and going to be listened to because of his ties with Suzuki. But as that year progresses, I think his opinion is going to be less received. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because right now, the bike turns, he has the feeling and the understanding of how a good bike turns, right? And he's giving that to the Honda engineers and whatever. And when they start to try that, if that doesn't work or Mark doesn't like it,
right,
I think he's going to find it very, very hard to remain within that, not remain within the team, but for his feedback to be credible. Do you know what I mean? So I think he could struggle then with being the outsider. Do you know what I mean?
They did get a taste of it, though, that Honda, believe it or not, on the Suzuki. Now, everybody remembers them. There's that sweet handling bike in 2021. But when they added the big horsepower in 2022, that screwed up that chassis a lot. I remember they were going down. It wasn't them having a bad run, like a bad day, the wrong eggs in the morning. Yeah, they was screwing up that chassis because it was so much more horsepower. It was twisting around when it never had any flex there before. Yeah. And boom, I'm down. So they got a taste of it. Now they turned the horsepower back down because the engines were coming apart. And they blew up 4, and the last 5 were held together with glue and duct tape.
Duct tape and tie wraps.
Yeah.
Every race was dream. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they did get a piece of that. So they're really going back to the start of 2022 this year, and when they're going on to the Honda. Now, I don't know if the differences between the two or the feel of one being flexy, one being too, I don't know if it's too flexy the Honda is, or it's too stiff. I don't think anybody seems to know at this point in time.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you definitely one team that doesn't know, and that's Honda.
Yeah.
Joe, what I mean? But no, I think what would be considered a decent season? Yeah, I think you're right. In top five, top eight would be a decent season for him. But I think this is going to be much more of a challenging season than he's ever had because he's number two, completely 100% number two, right? Marc Marquez is Honda, Repsol Honda, right? And Marc Marquez is driving the fuck out of the Honda engineers, riding them like madman in a brothel, right? Which he shouldn't have to do, right?
No.
Do you know what I mean? And that's a major management failure, right? Do you know? But for me, it's like it's going to be a very dangerous season for Mir, right? A, you have the bike, and B, you have the mental side in the garage, right? I can see very quickly if his input isn't making the bike better, or the engineers aren't translating that he could be in danger of falling into a whole Paul Espargaro kind of, you're on that side of the garage, you're there because we have to run two bikes.
Yeah, but that's been in Honda for even since 2013, 2012. When
look, it is a Mark. Yeah, look, he is in Marc Marquez's layer. Like, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Next question. Oh, Jesus, this is going to get us in trouble anyway.
Oh, yeah. What else to do?
And this comes from Vinny.
Vinny.
Oh, hi, Vinny. How are you doing? Do you think Yamaha will give Fabio the bike he wants for next season?
No.
You're under oath.
No. Definitely not. I said that when they first started. I said they're going to go in the cheap, and they're not going to. They want to do that V4. If they're doing that V4, it's going to take a long time.
Yeah, well, for me, the V4 is
it has to be done.
They brought Marmoni in. I don't expect to see a V4 to 24, 26 easy.
I think they're already working on it. I mean, and I can't see them. They're engineers. They're smart. They know that V4, the inline 4, is a dead end. They see Suzuki rule all their problems.
Yeah, look, they have brought in Suzuki engineers, so maybe
it's a physics problem. So you can't engineer a physics problem. It's like you can't say I want to engineer, compressing water. It just can't be done. I don't care how much you engineer it.
I just think, but I think the fact that they brought in Suzuki engineers will help that conversation. Do you know what I mean? Because Suzuki will say, we tried and this is the issues that we had.
Didn't work.
You know what I mean? Yeah, don't be so fucking stupid, right? But look, we can battle on with everyone about V4 and non V4. Yamaha definitely next year are not going V4. Have they given them the bike? If you asked me the week before the test, I would be saying, yeah, they will give him more horsepower because that's what they're saying. We still don't understand, or we still don't know what happened, this horsepower engine or this cracker of an engine.
I do.
But let's wait and see.
Running the 21 engine all through 22 was that was the biggest story. Mac would crack the biggest story there that other people didn't pick up.
Yeah, look,
all preseason. That's a big tell right there. That means yours SOL.
Yeah.
It really does.
It does, but look, it's just.
So they're having a 23 engine that's updated. They're taking a 21 engine and updating it to make it a 23 engine.
Yeah,
it's not even a new engine.
No, it's not. It's fixing wood that doesn't work.
I'm sorry to tell you that because Mac is a Yamaha fan.
Oh man, yeah. You can. I can call my brother an asshole, but if you do it, you're dead. And like, I absolutely hate seeing Yamaha where they are. It really fucks me off, right? And I'd be very honest with it. Like, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy seeing Fabio win.
Mm-hmm. Oh, his skills are phenomenal. Yeah, I know.
But what kills me then is I see the other fella and he's in fucking 14th place, and I'm like, you know, and like, he's the best of the rest of the Yamahas. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, all I would love to see. And look, Lynn Jarvis was very open with it, right? Like,
yes, he was.
Crafer asked him, why can't you go back to a 2019 chassis? So everyone loved the 2019 chassis, and he's like, yeah, but he's like, everyone loved the 2015 chassis before we got the 2019 chassis. Do you know what I mean? And everyone loved the 2008 chassis before we got. And like he's right, because everything is different. Do you know what I mean? Even if you're putting 2 or 3 horsepower more through it, it's going to
Right.
change. If you
Yeah.
change slightly the rigidity of the frame, it's going to change. And
Yes.
they're constantly seeking it. They can't just go back, because the 23 engine is completely different to what the 2019 bike frame was designed for. So
Right.
like they genuinely can't go back. You can
Hmm.
try, but
Right. Yeah,
right,
it's a
but
double-edged sword. You just can't put
it
horsepower in
is,
it. Yeah.
yeah. But it's not even the horsepower. It's like the engine characteristics, or the way
Right.
that
Right.
the electronics deliver the power. Even on the 21 engine, but if they put it into a 2019 frame, it
Hmm.
won't work, because it's all completely different. And I thought it was very fitting in the MotoGP Unseen, where Lynn Jarvis personally thanked Fabio in front of a camera with a live mic. Okay, it wasn't live on the telly, but it was picked up by a live mic. And he's like, I thought this year was going to be so much worse. Thank you for everything. I was like, Jesus, that's a massive, massive statement to make.
Yeah, it
But
is.
will they give him the bike? They won't. Like, he wants a bike that he can fight on equal terms with the Ducatis and
Yeah.
Yamaha, in my view. And I would love them to be up there. Love them to be up there. But like, looking at the Valencia test, they're still 10, 11 kilometers an hour slower.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So the answer that I have is hopefully, but it doesn't look likely from what we've seen at the test. Yeah. Next question from James. Hello, James.
Hello, James. Welcome to the show.
How long do you spend on YouTube creating videos every week?
That's his. That's his.
This is a very, very good question. Each video that I put out every day approximately is an hour. So if that's 7 videos, that's 7 hours. But that's from recording to the footage to the editing to the creating the thumbnail, and then we have the podcast. So 8 hours is,
and that doesn't count the research that you do. Looking things up and saying, okay, this chassis is this way, this chassis. Oh, look at the changes that we had. This rider did this.
By the way, Sleepwalker, I'm still waiting on the vernier calipers.
Yeah, we are. We could have saved a lot of time with you, but you're being lazy. We're a lazy walker.
Send that down to me. But so look, like, actually shooting the videos and doing it is about 8 hours a week. So it's a full day's work on top of my full day's work already that I'm supposed to be doing. So yes. Now, next question is from a full stop. They just put
I don't stop.
So we're just going to put full stop. How are you doing? How much money do you make off YouTube? Not a lot. I do start to make money, but I do also have subscriptions that I use for the channel. So, for example,
buy him some coffees or some beers. Don't be cheap. You know what I mean? Don't be chiselers. I buy him beers. Yeah,
you do, and I drink them.
Yeah,
I do. Yeah.
He needs money. It's money. Beers, $5 for beer. Yeah. You can handle that.
I pay money to have the MotoGP app. I pay money to have the streaming service that we use to record these podcasts or to stream live races. I pay money to have it for tools for the thumbnails. I pay money for tools for researching keywords. So, to be very honest, how much do I make? I make absolutely nothing. It actually still costs me money. If you want to know how much how many views I would need and stuff like that, I probably need about 100,000 views per video to start actually making money. So, as you can see, I'm very far away from doing that. So,
he pays me nothing, and that's too much.
Yeah, I put up with him. Yeah, I put up with you. And the last question that I'm going to field today, and this is a really interesting one, and I think this is from a competitor, which I don't have competitors, being very, very honest, and I'll explain why and where and how in a second. But James asked, where do you get your content or the ideas for your content? Now, the very specific word there is content, so leads me to believe that this person is also a creator. But where do I get my content? Is the same place where everyone else gets their content. So I read an awful lot of news articles and stuff like that. I never, ever, ever watch other creators on YouTube. And I'll tell you the reason that I don't is that I'll read an article, and when I do a video or have a discussion or whatever, it's my opinion that I do off of that article. And the reason I do that is, and the reason I don't watch others is that I don't want my opinion swayed on what I had. Maybe if I discuss a topic, I might watch a video on someone else on someone else's channel, but very, very rare do I watch creators on MotoGP. I do watch creators of Formula One because I'm not doing a channel on Formula One. Do you know what I mean? So for news and that, but I tend to use the exact same ones that majority of people use, but I just read the article. Sometimes I write a few notes on it myself, and then I turn that into a video when I start thinking about it later on. And that's exactly it. Look at yesterday's one on Crikey, It's a KTM with Jack. Inspiration came from that, where I was watching Crikey, It's the Irwins with my young fella.
God.
A few days ago, and that's where I was like, oh, that'd be actually a class thumbnail. Yeah. So
I'm excited about the KTM, by the way.
Yeah. Like I think Jack can do very well there. Will he be a consistent race winner? No. Odd race winner, maybe. Wet race winner, probably. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. We know that bike is good in the wet. Jack is good in the wet. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. They have a good. They always had a great team. Always had a great engine. It's in their DNA. Yeah. That V4 has been back in the '90s, and they have very, very strong engineers. They pay so much for engineers. They're poaching off the Ducati, and that's tough to do because everybody wants to be a Ducati. They get the best of the best.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And but the problem is they're holding on to old technology in that chassis, the steel trellis chassis, which I think is neat as a tech guy. Like pushing old technology to the very limit is just cool.
Yeah.
But,
look, I think,
but I know it's not realistic though.
Yeah, but I think it's like everything, right? You know, Gigi came into Ducati. Do you know what I mean? He's like, we need to change a lot, right? And everyone thought he was going to change personnel. He didn't change an awful lot of the personnel, but he just changed the way of their thinking. And I think and I see an awful lot of Gigi happening with this new fella Gintoli. What's his name?
Sylvan Guidati? Not Sylvan.
No, not Gintoli. No. Guidati. Sorry, Guidati.
Guidati. Okay.
Yeah, he's gone into KTM. He was the team manager for Pramac. Remember 2 years ago. And he's gone in there, and you can see Pit Boyer is actually taking a bit of a step back. And he is starting to run the show because, again, look, he was a really good team manager. He's an awful lot of good relationships with Ducati people. So he has an awful lot of influence in their decision to come on over. And like these guys probably, and the guys that he's bringing over, the guys that probably missed the boat on the Ducati thing. So like if you were one of the people that started the revolution within Ducati, you're sorted for, like, your job is never going to be, but if you're going to try and change or evolve that in Ducati, that'll never ever happen. So these guys, in my view, are not maybe the most senior guys, but they're fairly senior, but they have radical ideas that they wanted to change the Ducati and it wasn't going anywhere. Do you know what I mean? And
right.
Your man is like, well, man over here, we'll give you a few bob and we'll give you what, we'll take your ideas and
but the problem with KTM said it is part of the steel trellis chassis is a part of our identity, and we will not change. We'll leave MotoGP before we ever. right?
I would.
Change out of that steel trellis
I.
chassis.
I wouldn't be free. I wouldn't be.
They've been saying that every year too, because everybody's
the,
like, "Why are you holding on to a technology that's 20 years old?" And it is 20 years old.
yeah, look, I think it will change. Listen, look, at the end of the day, or
And they're
or
German. Don't forget how stubborn we are.
or I did read actually. Gudati was doing a thing, so I did actually find the article that you were on about MV Augusta.
Mm-hmm.
So they did ask him, "Would you like it?" And he said, "Yeah, of course, I would love to have it in there." So maybe like KTM will still own the manufacturer rights, but they could turn around and say, "Listen, look, we need to put an aluminium chassis on, and it goes against everything that KTM has. So let's call it a gas and sell it to be.
Yeah.
Let's change the manufacturer and like remove KTM and put like there's a lot of sponsorship ideas, but it's not off the table that KTM would, or that one of those brandings would change to MV Augusta.
Yeah.
Let's just call
well,
it
that
that
makes
way.
sense. It's cheap money for them because and MV. I mean, for such a little company, right? I mean, they're a dot in the wall. Their engineering is unbelievable. An MV engine is made. It's 11 and a half hours to make an MV engine. The inline fours, they make it like a Formula One engine. They actually use cryotech engineering where they cool it down to 274 degrees below zero, and then bolt the heads on to get it even, and then slowly up. And it takes the metal. If there's any air in the metal, it tracks it. It makes it thick, so there's no
Look,
impurities to it. It's unbelievable.
They're an amazing process, and even when you watch those,
that's why they cost a fortune.
Yeah. Well, look, actually, did you ever decide which bike you're going to get? Are we going to put a date in it?
November 30th, I get my MRI. Now, if they say I have cancer and it's growing, then I'll get one.
You're buying both of them.
I might. But I already have. Thing is, I already have an S1000 RR, and then I have the gray. I love the gray. They're not making the gray anymore. The Hockenheim gray.
Still sell it if you're going to bring in that pure. So dirty.
Well, I don't have to. I don't have to sell anything. I mean, I'm pretty well off, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I could buy every second bike that came out new. Still.
So you kicked the bucket. Which bike am I getting? What's my choice?
I might give you my MV, my F4RR. If you're a good boy, if you're going to keep it for a while.
Listen, no bikes will ever be sold. I would like.
Yeah.
I'll sell the misses before I sell a bike.
And that was worked to the nines. I mean, that thing eats everything else I have up. I mean, that's a race bike. I mean, it goes. But it is like riding a race bike. It's not like you don't want to take it around the block. It's when you go, it has that.
Castrate you at every bump, like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah.
It comes alive at 8,000 RPMs.
Yeah. It's like the little defibrillator. She's nothing between 0 and 8, and then 8 to 11. So she wakes up, then she likes to lift the front wheel. So, but
how they made the same horsepower as the 2016 R1 World Superbike with a engine, the F4RR RC made the same horsepower as the R1 in 2016 for the World Superbike. With the engine, it was 20 some years old and has Hemi heads. How do you do that? I mean, it has the old 90s. I mean,
it's just engineering 101, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
No, but that's really refining. Like how I've been doing the same engine for 20 years, and it has Hemi heads. I mean, come on.
But just take note, Yamaha. Like if it's a good engine, it's a good engine.
No. That's with Yamaha. It's a situation where they just hit it. They're great for the World Superbike, right? But when they hit that 300 horsepower, 325 horsepower, it's a physics where it just runs out.
Yeah,
the crank is too big. How do you change that?
For me, look, I the last corner in Sepang is the real place where you always see the difference between a V4 and an inline 4, and you'll see the V4 comes in, makes a V out of the corner, and it's gone. Mm-hmm. Whereas the inline 4 has to take, and you're just like, look. If you're covering more ground, it's costing you more time.
Yeah.
Joe. But look, anyway, so look, we can fight about the Yamaha engine till the cows come home. At one point, one of us will be one
I'll
batch
tell
of
you,
us will be.
you'll be wearing a pink shirt next year. Let me tell you, if we're going to go on that.
Oh
one.
yeah.
Here's another myth that an engineer, a cousin of mine, corrected me on. You always heard that the inline four, because it has a lower center of gravity to the front, it's closer to the front end, it turns better, and it does at slow, tight corners. But because of that heavy crank, when they start going at a fast corner, okay, your high RPMs, the inertia of that big crank makes it harder to go around the corner when you're going fast, a big, long, sweeping corner. And that's why the Ducatis were always faster at the long, sweeping corners, but slower on the slow, shorter, tighter ones. So it was always a trade-off. They did that, and when they got that turning, what they called it a banana. What they used to call it? Banana tech, where they said the frame tilted, twisted like a banana. Yeah, I wonder what that there's the same name when they're, but a different thing. If the wheel technology or remember the flex in the rims? That was a great article you did, fake video, where the I think they were talking about not the frame itself, but the wheels flexing going into the corners that nobody knows about except for you. You did that video on it, which was excellent. Learned something new on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes I love to be very anal.
That's good.
Yeah.
Just don't look at me. Don't look at me that way when you say that.
Cheers.
I know.
Anyway, we will wrap it up there for this week. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Do not forget, I will leave the link in the description if you want to ask questions for next week.
Oh, yeah. Ask away, folks.
Yeah. Keep them clean and above the belt. And
unless it's a young, pretty girl, then you don't have to be clean. You can ask me all you like.
Yeah, Jake's phone number is, if you're a young, pretty girl, Jake's phone number is...
well, it can't be too young, they'll kill me.
Yeah. Well, die happy.
There we go.
But look, thanks again for joining, Jake, and thanks everyone for listening, and delighted to have another podcast over and done with, Jake. More videos this
Always
week,
fun.
and I'm sure we'll come up with some extra funny stuff to talk about next week. Anyway.
All right. Take it easy, guys.
All right, guys. Everyone, peace out. Enjoy. Have a great week. And
hasta la vista.
Yeah, exactly.